And welcome to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. Permanent daylight saving time. It's like they heard us. We're going to talk about that. The Senate passed it. It's on its way. It could be here. We might never have a dark 4:30 p.m. ever again.
You know what we also might never have again?
What's that?
Our drum roll start. Where was my drum roll?
I messed up. Wildlife corridors. We're going to talk about why they're important. An asteroid hit Earth this past weekend. Did you hear about this?
I did, because you told me about an hour ago.
There you go. An asteroid hit Earth. We're going to talk about that very quickly. Nothing to panic about. And then March Madness is here. So we're going to go over some of our stuff, our tidbits, things like that, your tips and hints before you get your bracket filled out for tomorrow. Before we dive into all of that, Mark, how are you feeling?
Well, I'm frazzled now because I was waiting for the drum roll, and all of a sudden you started talking again.
We've done the drum roll twice, and now it's become a part of your
thought
existence.
It was part of the show.
I love we literally did it twice, and now it's just expected. It's just
if you rewind yesterday's episode, you told Joe that we had a drum roll.
Yeah, I told him that I started a drum roll the day before, and now we were doing it again.
And now we're not doing it anymore. And we didn't discuss it. We didn't have a meeting about it. You just nixed it.
Have you ever seen at halftime shows, there's the person on like the unicycle and they have like the plates and they're like juggling in one hand? I just envision me doing that plus a drum roll. And that's all you need to know.
So you can't do a one-hand drum roll?
It's very difficult to do a one-hand.
Have you, here's our first tangent of the day.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen like a real professional street performer?
I mean, like I've been to Vegas. I've been to the famous beach in California.
Venice?
Yes, I've been to Venice. So I've seen like street performance. I can honestly say I've never seen a street performer that knocked my socks off. Maybe it's bad timing. Maybe I never saw the right act, because I've seen viral videos and I've seen people share stuff and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I personally have just never come across the right one.
I've seen a couple at the Inner Harbor in Baltimore.
Okay.
And when you're down by the aquarium and really like a spit from the water, when you're right there in the Inner Harbor, they have kind of almost a little amphitheater built on the bricks and the cement and whatever.
Is it right next to the ESPN zone?
Yes.
I've been there.
Yes.
I know where you're talking about. Continue.
I have, well, the ESPN zone's not there anymore, but it's where the ESPN zone was.
Okay.
I have seen a couple where it is a mob scene. Okay. Like you almost can't get any closer to see this guy. Okay. And they're on, 10-foot tall unicycles, juggling flaming bowling pins.
Sure.
And and the whole time they're talking you through it.
Okay.
And if you ever and they just work for tips.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, like, this is one where I'm there with my kids and you're handing them a $20 bill and you're like, go put that in the guy's hat. Okay. They are
incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And just the stupid thing about, like, I can't. Can you ride a unicycle?
No. But to be fair, I've never tried. I'm going to make the assumption I can.
But the thing about it, too, is how do you get on a 10-foot tall unit? Like, you've got to, like, run and jump and work your way back. It's just doing it almost would take years of practice just to do that.
Yeah.
And then the level of juggling skills, juggling anything in all impressive. You can juggle, can't you?
You
told me this before. I think
this might be the most I ever brag on the show. I'm pretty good.
So I think you told me that once upon a time.
I can juggle different objects. Like I can juggle tennis balls, but I can juggle basketballs. Like I can do like 1 up, 2 down. I can do one hand. It's a very weird skill that I developed over time.
Can you juggle different objects?
I can, assuming like they're not like swords, right? Like I can't juggle anything that's like sharp, like like the running joke. Like I can't juggle like chainsaws, like like that. But I can do like right to left. I can do circle. I can do in out. Like I'm kind of legit.
Can you do? I think you told me that. That's why I remember that. Could you do like 2 tennis balls and an apple and eat the apple while it's going through?
If you gave me a day, I could probably figure it out, because really, that one's not as difficult because it's the same size and all you're doing is adding emotion. Like you're just adding emotion to the flow. So that wouldn't be that difficult.
Have you ever juggled anything that was burning?
No, I've never done anything like that. I have juggled things that are like breakable though. Like I've been put in the spot where like if I drop it, like it's going to break. I used to be able to, I don't know, I haven't really tried some of this stuff in a while. I used to be able to do like under the leg. I used to be able to do behind the back. Like I used to be able to do all these quirky things within them. They're good party tricks. And especially like when you're a camp counselor at like sports stuff, it's a good way to get the kids to like be quiet.
Do chicks dig it?
No, surprisingly not. They don't. Well, I should say that the right chicks.
Well,
but no, it's just, you know, it is funny. It started off because I always had tennis balls because of jammed fingers. When I was a kid, I kept jamming my fingers playing basketball all the time. And so one of the things that they told me to do was to take tennis balls and squeeze them to like strengthen.
Yes. Okay.
So I would always just have random canisters of tennis balls like in my parents' living room and different things. And then finally, like the one day I just picked up 2 and started tossing them. And then what I realized is it was helping like my hand-eye coordination and stuff like that. So I just kept going with it. And that's kind of how the whole thing.
And there's so much more, and there's so much more to street performers than juggling and unicycling.
Sure. No, 100%.
They do magic, they do comedy.
Yes.
It is. But if you ever are walking, it's like the dudes, the street musicians, to stop and, you know, musicians, you kind of just stop for a song, basically, and then. But if you ever go by a street performer, I'm telling you, 15 or 20 minutes, you will not regret it. They are that good.
Very similar. It's not quite a street performance, but it's the same way when I walk into a piano bar or I hear a piano bar, I'm immediately like engrossed. Like I can't, I'm like, let's just go there. Like, let's forget everything else we had planned. Like, let's just go listen. Because it is amazing how talented people are that you've never heard of before.
Oh my gosh, yes. And just the ability to just play it.
Yep.
Can you play this? And even just to read it and play it. And I'm sure with like musicians, they're like, just, oh, it's not that hard. And
even just the riffing. And especially we've been places before where people will just add your name in the stuff. They'll, you know, where are you from? And then they'll throw that in the song.
Right.
I mean, people who do that are
piano bars can be a whole lot of fun.
Oh yes.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Permanent daylight savings time.
We just talked about this.
We did just talk about this. So
you know why we just talked about it? Because it was just daylight savings time.
So the Senate passed an act to make it permanent. It's called the Sunshine Protection Act. That to me, I don't know if it needs all that behind it, but it's seeking approval from the House and the signature of Joe Biden to become national law.
Okay, so let's raise pros and cons.
Okay.
We talked about this the other day.
Let's do the cons. Done. Okay. Now let's do the pros.
Oh, you don't think there are cons to this?
Oh, what are the cons? What are the negatives to this? I would love to hear one.
The day they roll the clocks back and you get an extra hour of sleep.
Yeah, but you only get the extra hour because you lost one. Now you're not going to lose one anymore.
But you just got it. You got it.
Are you pro the daylight saving time? Permanent daylight savings time?
As Jerry's thinking off air, it's what they call dead air. It's
from a selfish standpoint, yes.
Okay.
Well, everyone looks at things from a selfish standpoint.
Can you think of a con?
Yeah, you lose that extra hour of sleep.
The con is in warmer climates where people want the sun in the evening so that they can do something.
There you go. I hadn't thought of that.
The desert Southwest does not want daylight savings time. They hate it.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
Okay.
The extra hour of shade and just.
Yeah.
Because you've got to get. That is interesting.
Instead of they don't want to get up in the morning and go run. They want to run.
Interesting.
I never wanted to get up in the morning and go run either, and I live in the north.
I don't know what Indianapolis' problem is. I just have no clue as to what Indy's problem is. They just want to be difficult.
Can people hear him, by the way?
Probably.
Oh, okay.
Probably pick him up
from
a distance.
I was just checking.
So there you go. So that's a con I hadn't thought of. If you live probably like deep south or south Midwest, some type of desert region, yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Well, and I will have to live through it to see. Because all of this is speculation.
Can we go back to the lost hour of sleep? Because I'm baffled.
Isn't that a great day?
Okay, it's a great day, but it's
okay. Then there's no buts. Then it's a great day.
There's a but because the butt is.
Do you need a new butt?
I don't. Mine's cracked, but it's not. I don't need a new one. The issue is you're only gaining the hour because you had lost it before.
Well, you lost it 6. That doesn't, dude. When you lose your cell phone,
okay,
and then you find your cell phone, it is a great moment when you find your cell phone.
But only because you lost it.
Correct. But it still doesn't make the moment any less joyous.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
There is a thing, and we've talked about this here. I enjoy the hunkered downness of winter that I think that darkness allows or almost encourages.
Well, correct. I could be completely wrong. This will show you my real science pedigree here. I mean, you're still going to get darker.
It's going to be dark at 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Yeah, it's just not going to be this thing where like you walk out of school or the office and at like 4:30, it's like the day's over.
But on the flip side, in the morning when you wake up, are you driving to school in the dark?
Maybe, but I would take that trade-off personally. I would totally take that trade-off.
And maybe I would too. I'm going to have to see it.
Yeah.
Because
I mean,
it's hard to speculate.
Yeah, and I am speculating when I say this. I think for teachers, anybody who works like a 9 to 5 or like an 8 to 4, and like when it really gets into that, we're like at 4 o'clock, we are setting. Like it's not dark yet, but like at 4 o'clock, like it is getting darker, and by 4:35, like the lights are on the cars and everything else. If you work a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 4, I mean, those months can be awful, where you just walk out and it is already done. There is nothing, like the day is over because the sun is setting. That will no longer exist.
Yes, I do get that. That the seasonal depression is like a real thing, and
oh, absolutely. And so is weather.
Is that what it's called? Is there more? I call it seasonal. Is there more complicated?
Seasonal depression.
And that people, the shortening of the days and the extension of the darkness, just like you said, they never spend any of from Monday through Friday, they never live in daylight.
Yeah.
They go to work, they come out, it's dark.
Get rid of that.
So
we don't need that
you might get rid of it for a little.
Sure.
Or the people who get out of work, whatever. But yes, and I see that, and it will be interesting to see if it has a positive effect on those people.
Yes.
Or does starting the day in darkness?
No. I get your point.
Because we're not giving more daylight. We're just adjusting our clock to when the daylight is.
Yes, I get your point. I think for a lot of people in that winter season, there's a lot of mornings they get up and it's dark anyway, because you have to wait for the clock to switch over. And I think it's mostly positive. Give people, I always put a time limit on you and you just fly past it. 30 seconds, recap what you were telling me about the most dangerous day of the year. Because I found that fascinating.
It's the Monday after. When they roll what we just had, when they roll the clocks ahead,
yes,
because you've lost an hour's sleep, and people's bodies, some people adjust quicker than others, just like with jet lag.
Yes,
and so there's an inherent grogginess for people, especially people really patterned. So they're going to work on Monday. They haven't recovered yet. I say recovered, but they're groggy at work. So there's more car accidents on the way because I don't know if you knew this, how many open road fall asleep at the wheel happen between like 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. with no alcohol involved, just because of fatigue.
Sure.
Is a very common. So anyway, that happens. Workplace injuries happen, and heart attacks are on the rise. And is it because of the combination of stress and fatigue, or whatever the case may be?
Yeah.
But like hospitals will tell you, we have more heart attacks on this Monday than a typical Monday.
Yeah. To me, that alone makes this worthwhile. You're getting, in a weird way,
I'm with you.
You are essentially getting rid of the most dangerous day of the year.
And we'd also talked about in my next 30-second clip of people with mental health issues like depression and anxiety and things like that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes those people work better in a ritual. Sure. And when you throw a shock to their ritual, one of the things, as we talked about, the health, the physical health, the heart health, the workplace injuries happen more in the spring. Mm. Depression, they found, is kicked worse in the fall because of the darkness. Mm. And that all of a sudden it went from this to an hour's jump, and now the world went from being pretty light, longer. The days are getting shorter, but then all of a sudden it went really short.
Sure.
And that shock
Yeah. So let's just get rid of that.
Overall, I'm not opposed to it.
Right.
But there is that beauty of the one day of year where you get an extra hour.
Deborah, July 1st, 1908 was when daylight savings time was established. Daylight saving time, also known as daylight savings time or daylight time, and summertime is the practice of advancing clocks during warmer months so that darkness falls at a later clock time. What did we do before that?
Nothing.
Great point.
There's
a great point.
We talked about this before while I was researching this. The belief initially was it would save energy. Because people were staying up later, and then we could just, if the sun was up later, because back in the frontier days, people went to bed when it was dark because there was nothing else to do.
You don't know that. I mean, you're old now, but you don't know that.
I don't remember that far back. But they're saying now 100 years later, there's no proof that it works. There's no proof that it's any better, especially now that we have all this technology.
Don't need it anymore.
One of the other theories way back in the day is they said no matter what they said, they did it to help commerce. Because if it kept it daylight longer, people could shop longer. Nowadays, as people shop through their phones, it doesn't really matter what time of day it is. So it will be fascinating to see, 5 years from now, do we think, oh my God, we need it back? Or why didn't we do this 50 years ago? Right. Or it'll be neat.
Yeah.
But I'm not opposed to it. In general, I'm in favor of it.
I think this is something the country can rally behind.
Rally?
I really do. I think we can all rally behind
You
this.
think Biden's pushing this through to get his to try to get his rating up?
I'm just saying, like next October when it's 6:30 and 7 o'clock and the sun's still like setting, I think people are going to be like, you know what, this place, like we can do some stuff. We can figure this out.
Did you ever see Wag the Dog?
Yes.
So this is Biden's red herring to distract. Here, I'll artificially boost my ratings.
Sure.
Daylight savings.
Yeah, that could work. Let's talk about conservation corridors. Do you know what they are?
It's funny because I didn't until maybe, I don't know. I saw it on the internet. It might have been someone posted on Facebook, and it was a bridge.
Yes.
Over a highway.
Yep.
And it had a trail cam.
Yep.
And it just showed like overnight, like here they come.
Right.
And it was borderline. It reminded you of like, is there an ark over there? Because here they come. Yeah. Here come more animals. And so yes, the general gist is to provide safe migration routes for animals, so they're not roadkill.
So here's this is from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Conservation corridors are habitat areas that link otherwise unconnected wildlife habitats and are a key conservation strategy needed to protect wildlife. Lawmakers in Pennsylvania, as in 15 other states, are working to make conservation corridors a reality. I know in Florida they already have them. Some states already have them, but more states now are trying to include them. It's called Pennsylvania House Resolution 74. It is being introduced to the Tourism and Recreational Development Committee, and they are now beginning studies throughout Pennsylvania to decide what corridors would work the best, where do they need to go, how many do we need, what is the cost, all of those things that you need in order to introduce this to the state. Here was the part that I didn't realize this because I'm a nerd. I thought it was about migration, which some of it is. Some of it is allowing animals to cross highways freely and all those different things. What it's more about is animals' actual internal health more than external health. So it's not so much about animals getting hit by a tractor trailer as much as it is what they're finding is that species are staying on certain sides of certain highways. And thus, when they're mating within the same nucleus over and over and over again, and that's not healthy for the species. And so what they're hoping that these corridors allow is that more freedom across the state for these animals to then spread, mate with other different, mate with somebody from the other side of the highway, and hopefully it will help.
From the other side of the tracks.
There you go. And hopefully that will help increase the health of the actual
general health and well-being.
The herd or the community, depending on what species you're talking about, which
makes sense.
I'd never thought of it that way. I just always envisioned like a deer getting hit by a tractor trailer. Let's put in some corridors. But no, they're saying that if you actually, because now they track these animals
because they don't roam enough anymore because of fear.
Correct. And so they just kind of know, like, stay on this side of the highway, and then they mate with the same animals, and it's not good. It's not healthy for them.
That makes perfect sense.
Really
other than the cost of building a bridge here and a bridge there and whatever, I don't see a downside.
Not a downside. You know what did pop in my head was like spotted and lanternfly. Now, obviously, a corridor wouldn't like stop or anything like that. But I thought of like chronic wasting disease with deer, and I thought about all these different ways that they're trying to. And listen, you and I've talked about this. I think they're going to fail. Like I think some of the things they're doing are worthwhile, but long term,
how do you keep it from spreading?
Yes, and so I thought about that. To me, it sounds like that would speed it up more.
That's a valid point.
So again, I'm still pro. Like as I read through this and I was researching it, I'm very pro the corridors. But that was like an example of a con that kind of.
It would be interesting to hear because that sounds like it could be a legitimate con.
Yeah.
And it would be interesting to hear someone who knew what they were talking about to give their answer. And maybe they're like you, like, listen, they're gonna spread anyway.
Yeah.
So, and again, as I was talking about the cost of building the bridges, how much does it save in the cost of, damage?
Oh yeah. Well, how much safer are the roads?
How much? Yes, the lives that are lost.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen? I mean, this is awful to say, but have you ever seen video of like a regular car hitting a bear? I mean, like
no, but I could imagine.
I mean, the car is. I mean, you're lucky if you walk away from it. I mean, it does because I think most people think like you're in this car and it's indestructible, and you hit the wrong animal, like you are just as in danger as the animal itself from the impact. And so even just that to me seems like it's a good idea. I was looking up because again, I'm a nerd. I was looking up different corridors. So like in Florida, they have the over corridors where you have these grassy patches that go over.
That's what I've seen.
Then they have the under where they'll dig,
tunnel.
So they'll dig out and they'll go under.
Oh, hadn't thought of that.
And then they also in Florida, they have the water ones. So they have water bridges that go under and over as well. So you may drive underneath a water corridor in Florida. So that way like gators and manatees or whatever can go where they need to go. It looks, now again, I'm sure it's really expensive. I'm sure it's time consuming, all those things, but it looks awesome.
Now, when it goes a water corridor that goes over, better be glass bottom.
And I don't think it is, but that would be
so cool. You can drive through and be like, look, kids.
Yeah. We were just talking about making the roads safer. Now you're going through the tunnel.
Could you see how the people, like, they're going 75 and then they're going 25.
Right.
And they're like, look, is that a manatee? What do we?
So I think there's a lot of interesting things.
No, that's cool. That is cool. And I just saw that however long ago. Okay. So the first I'd ever heard of it was this winter.
Yeah.
And so that's a good idea.
They're really big in Florida about pumas, like for like bigger cats.
Okay.
So that was like the initial reason they were put in was to allow these pumas and cougars to like.
I'll show you how much I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea how big a puma is.
A puma, a picture like a panther,
it's that big.
Yeah, they are massive.
Okay.
Yeah, like a mountain lion.
Okay.
Yep, they are pretty big.
I know they're a sneaker.
They are a sneaker. You've never seen a puma?
I mean, I probably have, but
okay.
Like I don't know if it's like a little house cat or if it was like a big. But you're saying they're big.
It's a big guy.
Okay.
It's a big cat. Like think Tiger King. Like maybe not a lion, but like you could put a puma in Tiger King and you'd be like, oh, like that.
Okay.
That looks like it.
I've never seen Tiger King.
That looks like it belongs.
I'm the only person in America that didn't watch Tiger King.
No, Joe Exotic, Carol Baskin.
I've heard of them all.
Okay. Here's what I've told people this before with Tiger King. You only really need to watch like the first 4 episodes. After episode 4, the shock and awe of like what the shock and awe that these people own these zoos and these cats and they do all this stuff wears off. And then the last episodes is about like the dispute, the legal aspects about the lady and the guy. Okay. But I tell people, even if you're disinterested in it, first 4 episodes, because the first 4 episodes, you walk away after the second episode, you're just sitting there like, I cannot believe somebody in America is like, this is their life. Like they just have 100 big cats that they just feed meat to every day. And it is bonkers. You got to see like the first 4 episodes.
First 4. Okay.
Do that for me.
All right.
Real quick, before we go to March Madness, an asteroid hit Earth this past weekend. I just found this out.
You said that.
So here's what happened. And there's 2 reasons why this is interesting. The first one is they didn't discover it until like 4 or 5 hours before it hit the planet.
Because it wasn't very big.
because it wasn't very big. But imagine sitting there looking, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but imagine looking through a telescope, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's an asteroid right there. And then like 2 minutes later, coming to grips with the idea of like, that's going to hit us. And then you have to go through the process and notify everybody, and pretty crazy.
Well, they didn't notify me. So
No,
when you
they
say
didn't.
notify everybody,
No, we were not.
It's
in
like
the
10.
select
It was
group.
like 10 feet.
It says it was between 10 and 13 feet in diameter, depending on which way you.
So how
measure
big is our couch? 8.
it.
I mean, it's not.
yeah.
It's not that big.
It isn't. But this was the second fascinating thing, because I agree with you. Not a big asteroid. Okay. However, that asteroid was able to create a 2 kiloton explosion.
Sounds big.
When it hit the Arctic. So that, to me, I can't. So if you double that asteroid, I can't. Like,
no, I'm with you.
That it did that much, that small of an asteroid. I'm going like this.
It
like
makes
the asteroid was.
It makes Will Smith much more impressive.
Will Smith, Bruce Willis. Are we talking about the same
Wasn't
movie?
Will Smith in it too?
No. Ben Affleck, your boy Ben Affleck.
Wasn't it Armageddon? What was
Bruce
Will Smith
Willis.
in? Oh, was Will Smith in Independence Day?
Yes.
Oh, then I got the wrong one.
That's okay.
Yeah, all right.
I was with you. I picked up what you were putting down.
All right.
Bruce Willis.
I tried.
No, you did good.
So here's my thing, as you said.
Yes.
It wasn't discovered until 4 hours before by some Hungarian astrologer. And I say, could you imagine? Like, we all have things in life we like, and we all have things in life that, intrigue us. Could you imagine that you thought it was intriguing to just stare at the sky through a telescope? Like, honey, what are you going to do tonight? I'm just going to look at the stars again. Like, what?
Some people love it.
I just don't get that.
So the story that I had told you was I get your sentiment on like a day-to-day basis. Like, I don't think I would wake up every day and be like, I'm just going to stare up into the night.
Apparently that's what this dude was doing.
He might. However, I've been fortunate enough to do it a handful of times, and I've been able to do it in some pretty neat settings, and it is cool. Like, to do it once a year is an experience. It is really, really neat. And you do get like not to be corny, you do get like the goosebump, I'm just a small part of the world, like, look at what's out there. Like, you do get that feeling when you do it.
And I get it. Mm-hmm. I know there are people that think watching, 45 basketball games over the next 4 days would be painful.
Sure.
I think it's a blast. But I just can't imagine, like, hey, what do you want to do tonight? Let's stare at the sky again.
Yeah. I get it once or twice a year. I totally get it.
Look, asteroid. It's as big as a small car.
It's pretty crazy.
Bang, boom.
So here's where it gets crazier too. Patrick Wiggins, who is a solar system ambassador. Don't ask me how you get that job. A solar system ambassador, Patrick Wiggins, he says, this does happen all of the time. Smaller asteroids that are undetectable will hit different parts of the planet. However, the thing that makes this different is that we saw it before it was coming. Typically, when you do that, it's impacts that could have a magnitude and make a difference. So again, when he first sees this asteroid, I'm not saying he was like sounding the red alarm, but like most of the time, like Patrick Wiggins' point is when you're able to detect it before it hits Earth, it's sizable enough that like it could make a dent, essentially, is what he's saying.
All I can take from this is, I don't ever want the solar system to get a bad rap. So thank God they have an ambassador out there leading the charge.
I bet you Patrick Wiggins would come on to the show for us, and he could tell you all the things you're missing out on.
He could. I wonder how long it would take.
So there you go.
The ambassador. My dad's an ambassador to what? The solar system. Oh my gosh.
All right. So we did daylight saving time. We did the wildlife corridors, and we talked about asteroids that hit Earth. Now we can talk about March Madness. I know this is what you've been waiting for. Is there something that you wanted to start
with? Just to say this, and I know with the brackets, everyone has a good bracket story about. I think I told you this when my ex-wife, she was bartending at this kind of upscale place when we lived in Baltimore. And I remember she came home the first day and said, who won, blah, blah, blah. Were there any upsets? And I said Valpo won. It was the Bryce Drew year. You remember that year?
Yep.
And she goes, oh, Valparaiso, I picked them.
Okay.
I said, first of all, it's Valparaiso. And second of all, no, you didn't, because no one picked Valpo.
Okay.
She goes, no, Valparaiso, I picked them. Okay. And sure enough, she did.
Okay.
And out of 60 whatever people in the pool, she took second. And she took second picking Valparaiso, who doesn't even exist. So that is, I worked at a place where the one secretary, this young, she was probably 22, did not want to put money into the pool, but it was all for entertainment purposes only. But she did not want to join because she didn't know anything about basketball. She was essentially told, you will be fired if you don't join the pool, because everyone else did. And she won. She won the whole thing. So it is, the basketball experts have no advantage over anyone else.
No.
And that's what makes
it. The seeding kind of takes that away.
The seeding helps you.
Yes.
That's what, don't look at the records, look at the seeding.
Sure.
That's what helps you. For the, I learned this from a guy when I lived in Baltimore. For the gamblers who are just betting on the games themselves.
Yeah.
The things in March Madness you want to look for, at least early on, are don't worry about like shooting percentages and this and that. Height can be an issue, but are there, sometimes you get like the middle of the road big conference teams who suck on the road, that they win every game at home and they're terrible on the road. And when you get to March Madness, they ain't no more home games.
Right.
So everything's at least neutral. So look for those teams, and also look for like the smaller, like the good mid-majors that have gone on the road and had some success. Because they'll be the fan favorite as a 12 versus a 5. So he's like, those are the matchup. Those are the nuanced things you want, because you don't know who's going to shoot it well. You don't know who's going to, what's going to rattle home and what's not, who's going to get in foul trouble and who's not. But every now and then you can find a team that is dreadful on the road. And that's kind of what you're looking for.
That's interesting.
Now, do I know of any? No. But if you know,
but if you wanted to find
if you've watched a lot of college basketball and you know that or whatever, you could dig it.
So here's my thing. Can I tell you my thing for this year? And I kind of hinted at this to you before the show. The teams that I really like aren't the top 1 and 2 seeds. Like, I don't love the top 8 in this year's bracket. I don't love Baylor. I don't love Kansas. I don't love Arizona. I have a soft spot for Gonzaga. I hate Duke, obviously. Villanova, I don't. Auburn's got some flaws. I think Kentucky's really young. Like, I don't love these 1s and 2s.
Kentucky doesn't shoot it very well.
No, like, I don't love these 1s and 2s. However, like, I love Purdue. Like, I'm obsessed with Purdue. I love Purdue. I think they have 3 pros on their team.
And they have a 7'4" kid who's unguardable.
I think Iowa's a 5 seed. I think Iowa's old. I think they're just kind of like, they know who they are. They know what they're trying to do.
Do you know the Buchanan kid has played more college basketball games than anyone in history?
I believe it.
Because of the COVID year.
Yeah.
He has the all-time record.
Even just like I really like UCLA, who's a 4 seed. Because I just think they have a little bit of everything.
You like Tennessee?
They do everything well. I like Tennessee more than I like the 2s.
Tennessee's interesting.
So like this year, it's weird because I've always told people like Valparaiso's a cute pick. Like, it's cute,
for a round.
Like, if you want to do it for a round and you want to be cute and be able to say great. But I've always told people, like, if you don't have a couple of 1s and a 2 in your final 4, then if you want to throw in a 5 or a 4, go for it. Like, I went to fill some of this stuff out last night. I kept ending up with like a 3, a 4, 2 5s, like in my final 4. And I know that's not, my odds are not with me, but my gut, that's where it keeps going every time I fill it out.
Well, the other thing I want to say, and then I got to run because I got somewhere to be in 13 minutes. The playing games are a huge advantage. UCLA playing game went all the way to the Final Four last year. And there have been teams, because so last night Indiana won. Indiana was not great last night, but they won. So they've got through the jitters. If you watch the beginning of the game, it was full of jitters. Sure. The pressure's over. Not only have they got through it, but they've had success. They won. So when they go out and they go again, and I forget who Indiana has coming up. St. Mary's?
Yes, St. Mary's.
So when they go play St. Mary's, even though they're better, has those jitters. And if Indiana comes out like this is old hat. So tonight, the Notre Dame Rutgers winner, I promise you, and I should have looked this up before. One of those two, either Indiana or tonight's winner, is going to upset the other team because they have such number one, they just played and they're in a little rhythm. They haven't sat for a long time, but they've dealt with the pressure and they succeeded with the pressure.
Sure.
They didn't fail.
Yeah.
So it is an unbelievable advantage. If you're the 5 that draws one of these winners, they did not do you any favors.
No, I agree with you. Do you want to give your picks? Do you want to? Do you have a sleeper?
I can do it tomorrow because I haven't delved into I just like I have the overall philosophies like I just told you, but it's a wild year. There's nobody that you can really hang your hat on and say.
No, I do like Gonzaga. That is who I'm picking.
I watched St. Mary's play Gonzaga in the regular season, and they tore them apart.
So you got a bad taste.
And I'm like, how good can Gonzaga be if St. Mary's just rips them? So
I still think for one game, I think Gonzaga is a nightmare, like a matchup nightmare.
I would love to see Duke Gonzaga in the Elite 8. I would bet you a lot of money one of them's not there.
I agree with that totally. I don't love, like everyone was like, oh, Duke got it. I love Davidson. Same thing, kind of like Iowa. Like they're old, they've got some pieces. I think the one kid's a pro. The lefty wing that they have.
Right.
And then like Texas Tech they're
scary.
Duke might have to go Davidson, Texas Tech just to get to Gonzaga. Like
Texas Tech is scary.
Yeah, they're very scary. So we'll see.
No, I'm with you. And you just never know who's going to get hot.
No, that's what it's about.
Because yes, all these teams are so talented that a team like UConn could make a run if they get hot. Totally. And you run into the cold team, who got upset in the first round. There was a year Maryland went to the final. I think they got through the Elite 8 and hadn't played a team with a single digit seeding yet.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, upset. Oh, we run into this team. We got lucky there. Oh, we run into this team. We got lucky again. Yeah. So there will be someone who gets a softer path just because of the upsets the day before. Yeah. So it is great. It's a great time.
All right. Good. We'll enjoy them.
And they'll be fans.
Finally. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weiss Marcus for sponsoring. And be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all your local news.
That's it. I got to run.
All right. Go ahead. You can run. I'm Jeff Fever. He's Mark Messina. We will see you tomorrow.
See ya.